Nachi free. I want to make happy videos, I really do. But certain things I find almost impossible to ignore, such as social unrest during an election year, and especially the way the media covers it. Rachel Maddow is not the smartest person on TV.
Oh, Gangiri.
No, Scully, I'm not either. And it's not like I'm jealous, though I'll admit I'm a little envious of her 7-figure salary that, if according to DailyDish.com is true, it actually begins with the number 7 to top it off. Now, who am I to criticize the smartest person on TV? I'm not the smartest person anywhere. However, that does not preclude me from calling her out on the toxic, lethal bullshit she spews, particularly the way she covered this past week's riots in Charlotte, North Carolina, in response to the killing of Keith Lamont Scott by a black police officer.
By the curfew, they would allow protests to continue as long as they were peaceful. Protests in Charlotte last night, by and large, were entirely peaceful. And they went on late into the night and well past midnight.
I'm no professional media analyst, but you don't have to be one to see the dangerous narratives that are being woven like tangled webs of deception. Look at the conclusion of that very segment that she's reporting.
Released to the public. We heard President Obama today saying he wants Americans to be able to sympathize with each other at times like this, even to empathize with one another.
Really? Do I need to step back and understand this?
Peaceful, 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 peaceful.
And that's why 94% of Americans don't trust the mainstream media.
Footage from the unrest in Charlotte shows rioters stealing and looting cash registers from local businesses, smashing apartment windows and buses, physically attacking reporters, and trying to set a photographer on fire, throwing rocks off bridges at passing vehicles, beating up innocent people for being white, attempting to hijack cars, and terrify their innocent occupants, as well as engaging in gun violence against each other. Legitimate reporters compared the scenes to the West Bank unrest between Israelis and Palestinians.
There is a serious problem in our country, and it's clearly not oppression. And either way, I don't think this is about oppression anymore. Because in a truly oppressive country like Cuba, protests like these are stamped out very quickly. However, here in the good old US of A, they're allowed to fester and spiral out of control. Notice how it read, 4th night of protests. Try that in Russia or China, let alone North Korea or Saudi Arabia. Now, the real problem we have, aside from police incompetence and poor training, and sure, a few racist evil apples, I'm not going to deny any of that, but aside from that legitimate problem, the bigger problem is how the public is being calculatingly agitated and misinformed during an election year with reporting like this. And especially when it comes right on the heels of 3 Islamic terrorist-inspired attacks, which have almost entirely been flushed out of the news cycle. Nothing to see here anymore. I'm not one to dabble in conspiracy theories.
Eating being good, you.
No, Scully. I don't even like to entertain them as hypotheticals. But it's as if some people in the media are trying to say, no, the real enemy is our own police and government. Which is why we need to elect Hillary Clinton and not that racist Donald Trump, not him. Because after all, Hillary is going to solve the deep-rooted socioeconomic and geopolitical problems caused by our corrupt government. How? By expanding it even more. Quite possibly as she enriches herself through a charity that is practically a pay-to-play contracting machine for her biggest donors whenever a crisis occurs, like the earthquake in Haiti. Charlotte, North Carolina is now the 2nd city to fall into riots in less than 6 months after an armed black man was killed by a black police officer. And the riots began same night that those unfortunate tragedies happened. No waiting for the facts to come out, let alone any news stories. No, fuck it, start burning shit down now. And then the way journalists like Rachel Maddow and articles like these on Vox.com try to justify these mindlessly violent riots that end up costing people's lives. Listen to this line from Vox.com.
As historians have told me, this is what leads to urban uprisings and riots. It's typically not just one event. It's a confluence of factors, some of which may not be readily apparent to observers. People participate in this type of event for a real reason, Darnell Hunt, a UCLA professor who studied the 1992 Rodney King riots in Los Angeles, said. It's not just people taking advantage. It's not just anger and frustration at the immediate or proximate cause. It's always some underlying issues. Bullshit.
This is why we're getting these frequencies of riots and social unrest, particularly this year. They're not only being excused, condoned, and even justified, they're being totally sensationalized for all they're worth. And it's not just Rachel Maddow. No, she's not the only cunt on MSNBC pushing this. There's also Al Sharpton, who I refuse to call a reverend, so I'll call him a cunt too.
I'm tired of the magazine. You ain't nothing. You a punk faggot. Now come on, do something.
Does anyone remember Tawana Brawley? I've put a link to a great video down below in case you're interested. And then there's my favorite comics, like Bill Maher. He's a cunt too for saying things like this.
So obviously, anytime anybody shoots a policeman, it's just abhorrent. And, you know, there's no and ifs or buts about it. So I don't condone it, but I understand it. I mean, you can only look at so many videos of shooting unarmed black people. I'm surprised it actually didn't happen before. So
Kennedy said, you know, famously that those who make peaceful revolution impossible make violent revolution inevitable.
Right.
And
Yeah.
the Black Lives Matter movement is trying to raise awareness of the fact that this has been going on for a long time.
And there's plenty of other examples I could show of celebrities justifying riots and murderous behavior, but I want to keep this video as short as possible for your viewing pleasure. And besides, there's plenty of other YouTubers covering this, but the more the merrier. We need to collectively speak out against this false divide before any of these riots comes to a city near you. Look, I don't want to spread hate or divide at all. However, what is wrong, and media personalities that millions of people look up to and trust should know better than to be fueling dangerously divisive and misleading narratives being promoted by Black Lives Matter that are summed up in slogans like "Stop shooting us," that ultimately justify the violent criminal behavior that needlessly costs people's lives.
Getting bunking. Meow.
You could say that again. I can't wait until this election's over.
Oi, better get your go.
Oh, that's right. Vote for Gary Johnson, and thanks for watching.
Homegrown.